We live in a society that has a hard time dreaming, has a hard time being creative, has a hard time casting their faith and having hope that their tomorrows can be better than their todays. It's because they're bound. Like we lived bound for so long with the pressure.
Welcome back to Happiness in Progress. I'm your host, Danielle Craig. I'm an Emmy Award winner, former journalist, mom, wife, and just a person looking for more joy in the everyday. This podcast is brought to you by the Mail Tribune. The Mail Tribune has several podcasts on a range of subjects. You can check them out at mailtribune.com. Today's guests bring a lot to the table with their personal story of getting out of more than $60,000 of debt. Actually, it's $63,801.99, and they did that in about 6 months. In this episode, you'll hear from Ashleigh and Jason Mayfield. They build their income online through social media and YouTube, which we talk a little bit about in this episode. But there were two really big things I wanted to touch on with the Mayfields. One, having that awkward, maybe contentious conversation with your spouse about getting out of debt and changing your spending habits. No one wants to have that conversation. I get it. And two, doing this during the holidays, which, by the way, is exactly when the Mayfields cut back and got out of debt. Plus, in this episode, you'll hear about how the financial burden of debt paralyzes us, the 3 things they did right at the beginning of their journey to set themselves up for success, and how to start building wealth. I like to start these by just asking you to tell me a little bit about yourselves. So I will start there.
Definitely. So we are coming up almost on 12 years of marriage, and it has definitely been highs and lows, but it's been a great time. So we both are first generation converts for, just Christian faith. And we met in the church. He came to my church to be my music pastor right after I graduated high school. And I knew that I was going to win him over. And so we ended up getting married. We've traveled all over the country for his career. I have been a stay-at-home mom. I have been in a full-time career as a former retail manager. We've had so much life happen to us. We've lost jobs. We've been terminated. We've had, moments where we were really just racking in the dough, but being absolutely ignorant with our money. And then we've had moments where we literally had no idea where our next paycheck was going to come from. And so now we both make 100% of our income via the internet, via social media, which is fantastic. Jason has a large platform on YouTube. I am a top earner in a multi-level marketing company and capitalize my influence on Facebook and Instagram. And like I said, in December, it'll be 12 years we've been married. And I feel like we're just figuring this thing out, though.
And not only, she mentioned that we're first generation converts in the Christian faith. Not only that, but a first generation minister. And hopefully everyone will give me the pastoral privilege to say this, but when you are a person of faith, there is typically an adverse relationship with money because it can very quickly become the Lord is good and money is evil.
Yeah.
And in fact, the Lord is good and money is neutral. It really has no thoughts, opinions. It doesn't act any certain way. So that's been a journey for us to figure out that money had little to do with righteous or unrighteous. And it really just matters who you are.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Tell me about how long it took you to get to that understanding and that good relationship with money.
So in 2014, we had gone through a situation where I was terminated from a church leadership position that really was to no fault of my own. There was another circumstance that was going on that took about a year to come out in the public. But after that termination, I had just realized how dependent we had become on the ministry for our financial support. And not only that, and this might register a little more with everybody who's listening, we had put our financial well-being into the hands of someone else.
Yeah.
So for anyone else, that could be JCPenney, that could be McDonald's, that could be the bank, that could be wherever you work where you have put your financial well-being into someone else's hands. And so it's Thanksgiving Day. This is probably
It's 2014.
It's 2014.
Yeah.
It's 4 to 5 months after the termination had happened well after the severance had run out. And we are in the car on Thanksgiving Day riding across the state of Michigan to see Ashleigh's family. And I hope this doesn't come off strange when I say it, but it was a moment where I believe with every fiber of my being that I heard from the Holy Spirit. And I floated the question in the car, what would it look like if money wasn't a factor in anything that we did? Whether we, at the time when it hit me, I thought, let's be completely debt free if we didn't owe anybody anything. But over time, that's evolved where I've really understood the more money you make, the more options you have, and the more problems you can solve, and the more risk you can take. So that's expanded a lot, but it really started there.
That was kind of the defining moment. And what's funny is we encountered so much since then, and I don't want to jump the gun too much, but we had tried to go debt free a couple times or said we were going to, and it was just such a hodgepodge.
At that point, we had talked around it a lot.
Yeah.
We hadn't really invested.
I don't think we made
ourselves.
A decision.
Yeah, no. But the beautiful thing about being unemployed in that season and having a daughter that was born at 24 weeks, so she had to go to therapy sessions all the time, was as a man taking my daughter to therapy sessions. Maybe this is just me. Maybe it's kind of a man thing. I really don't know what to do in these situations. So I just kept a copy of Dave Ramsey's Total Money Makeover on me anytime that we went there. And so while Allie is learning how to swing on a swing and draw circles and walk better, I'm over here learning how to master your personal finances through behavior.
Yeah.
Wow. So that moment driving in 2014, how old was your daughter who was born at 24 weeks?
Oh, maybe
a little over a year.
A year and a half, probably a year and a half.
Wow. So you've just come out of this difficult season, maybe still going through that difficult season. Is this when you're $60-something thousand in debt?
No, actually.
Okay. Oh, that's a great question.
No, that's not when we were $60,000 in debt. This is when we were $50,000 in debt. So after I had kind of had this epiphany or this revelation, whatever you want to call it, I went from this was like a 10-day period that this happened. We were talking to a church about going and becoming their senior leaders, their senior pastors. And they had brought up salary on the phone. And we really believed that that was the trajectory that we were supposed to go in.
Yeah.
And I had said on the phone with them when they brought up salary, I stopped the conversation and I said, it doesn't matter. We'll make it work. So I said, I put it out there. It doesn't matter what you pay me. We'll come do it. But I had already kind of put it in my brain that if that position didn't work out, we'd go back into the other position that we had been doing at another church. So it fell through, and I started working to get that other job. But I wanted to go get that other job because we needed money. And it is so funny how you can think that you're financially free, because we had said, it doesn't matter. We'll come for whatever. We'll make it happen.
No, it matters.
To within, 12 days, I'm going, you know what? We need the money. This is how much I need, so we're going to go do it. So we made the decision to move based on a calculation I had done on how quickly we could go debt-free at a certain pay rate.
And then I looked, once we moved down to Florida, it would have been a few months, and we realized that Allie was doing better. We could figure out how to get her in daycare, which was safe for her. And she's totally fine now. She just had some developmental delays. And I decided to go back to work full time because that would allow us to leverage the money to go debt free. So it wasn't even a year later. We paid off all of our credit cards. Remember, because we went and celebrated by buying TVs.
So this is what happened.
Oh, no.
So we in this season, paid off. We had started with $50,000 of debt. We paid off both of our cars. So our cars were paid for. We paid off all of our credit cards. This was about $20,000 worth of debt that we paid off. And we only had student loans left.
Which was probably $30,000.
Which was about $35,000.
Yeah.
Most of which were in deferment. So they were not urgent. Somehow, between there and going and when we actually decided to put the pedal to the floor and go debt free for real, deal. Somehow in that period of time, with paid off cars, with all of our credit cards paid off, we amassed an additional $30,000 debt to where we actually went up, because we had been talking about going debt free and we're like, oh, we got 50. And then I had to come have this conversation after I'd calculated everything with Ashleigh and go, so surprise, got $14,000 in debt we didn't know about.
We had $63,801.99. So just kind of the timeline for you guys to understand is in November of 2014, Jason really felt like he heard a word from the Lord. In November of 2015, we had paid off all of our cars, both of our cars, all of our credit cards. And then we didn't get serious about debt free until it was November 5th of 2017 when we went public on Facebook saying we had $63,801.99. So there was quite a big gap in there from when he really felt like he heard a word until we actually got serious about it.
There was a lot of up and down and beta testing on that debt free journey in that time. But, I was talking to somebody about this the other day. It had come up. And I made a statement that I think is a good principle for anyone who's listening to pick up on today. When it comes to going debt free, this is really important. And if you listen to what's being said, it's going to make a big impact. If you don't go debt free, you don't go debt free.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that sounds like I just repeated myself. But the reality is the reason that we ran up $30,000 more in debt, or however much it was, is because we had not finished the process. And when you have a large chunk of debt that's just sitting there unattended to, we'll get to it when we get to it. It's not as urgent as the other debt. It's really easy to justify a $15,000 credit card offer or a $20,000 credit card offer. And as a matter of fact, that's what happened. I walked into the bank knowing that we needed a credit card for something that we were doing, for a business that we were starting. And I thought, I need something that's $4,000 or $5,000 just to, run expenses, pay it off. I went in and they said, well, how does $17,000 sound? And I'm sitting there flattered. Today, I'd be offended. But then I was flattered. I was like, $17,000.
And I remember we said,
I came home, we celebrated. We probably bought steaks on that $17,000 credit card.
But we swore we won't rack it up. And
guess what?
We did.
We racked it up.
Tell me about the stress that this put you guys under as a couple. Did you guys feel it as a couple? I know financial makes a big difference in relationships.
Let me go ahead and start with this. Before, we really get into our story, I think it's so important that anyone who's listening, who's, maybe thinks that, like, we have no super secret galactic skill that no one else has. Like, you can do this. It doesn't matter if you have more debt, less debt, the same debt. Like, it's just a decision. But what I can tell you now is that our arguments look different. We argue less. Mm-hmm. Our arguments look different.
Our stress points are different.
Yeah. We sleep better at night. We, probably make love better at night. Okay. Like the financial stress really touches every area of your life. So it's not just the awkward, once a week conversation about our finances. It's our daughter needs $20 for the book fair and we don't even have that. It's, am I going to put gas this week on the debit card or credit card? Am I going to go through McDonald's and is it going to be declined? Because those are situations that happen.
Earlier this summer, we bought 2 brand new off the lot cars, which, by the way, I would never give as financial advice to anyone, but we did it because we wanted to. And doing what you want because you make enough money, I definitely would give that advice to people.
Yes, do that.
Do that. But we bought 2 cars. So I had to go get the oil changed in the one that we're driving the most. And I'm sitting there getting the oil changed and I'm thinking, I remember when this felt like, why do you have to get the oil changed so frequently? Why do can I stretch this another 1,000 miles?
Yeah.
I'd be getting the oil changed at 6,000, 7,000 miles, y'all. I got to stretch it out.
I mean, I think we all know financial burden. It's so stressful. It keeps you so paralyzed in the now. And we wonder why, we're not only a generation, but we live in a society that has a hard time dreaming, has a hard time being creative, has a hard time casting their faith and having hope that their tomorrows can be better than their todays. It's because they're bound. Like, we lived bound for so long with the pressure and, deferment. It was, it's out of sight, out of mind. It's, sure, I'm pregnant. Let me get this loan deferred. And it was just such ignorance living in the now. And, I'll be transparent. Going debt free, it was not fun. It is more fun to eat the donut than to get skinny, and it's more fun to buy the shoes than go debt free. Mm-hmm. But I assure you, letting go of the good for the great, I would do it 10 times again. Knowing where we're at, here we are, next month will be 2 years since we started our debt free. And of course, we're almost a year and a half. We've been debt free now. And our November of 2019 is going to be the best November we've ever had, making Absolutely. The most money our family history has ever seen. And so when you get your finances right, you not only, alleviate that burden you put on yourself, but you're opening up the possibilities and essentially a guarantee that you can get more because you can receive more,
And so to answer your question, did it stress us?
Oh gosh.
Yeah, it stressed us all the time. But it stressed us in a way where we were able to make payments. We were surviving. We were fine, but we always felt like the boogeyman was going to come from around the corner and get us. And to be honest with you, that's one of the things that really got our attention is the boogeyman did come around the corner and get us on our big 20, by the time that 17,000 had grown to 20, 22, 25,000, whatever it was. And they took off that 12 months of no interest.
Oh, yeah.
And then they hit us with interest, and it's $657 a month on this credit card.
Did you say $657?
$657 a month is what they were charging us. And it was... I went from, hey, we're doing fine to
it's not fine.
This is going to eat our lunch and going to do it fast.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, we made a decision to pay that card off last, even though we had some student loans that were larger. We decided to do the student loans first, even though they didn't affect the bottom line immediately, because I needed that $657. They reminded me, hey, you screwed up. Don't do this again.
Yeah.
Wow. So let's talk about how you went debt-free. Tell me about some of the lifestyle behaviors that you brought into your life to get there.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and give the unofficial sponsorship to Dave Ramsey for a moment. Let me just tell you, Dave Ramsey, the Total Money Makeover, and, when you get kind of beyond having what he calls baby step 3, having your emergency fund in place, there's a lot of room for philosophical discussions. But in terms of baby steps 1, 2, and 3, baby step 1 being to put $1,000 in an emergency fund in the bank, just so you have $1,000 cash on you while you go debt free. Baby step number 2, limiting your lifestyle and throwing every additional dollar you can at the debt until it's paid off, smallest to largest, doing what he calls the snowball method. Mm-hmm. And then baby step number 3, having 3 to 6 months worth of expenses in a savings account that you can access. Those 3, I think anybody on the planet would be hard pressed to come up with a better 3-step process to have building in some measure of financial security in your life. So for us, we really did that. We decided we are going to pay. So in that time, because we had started our own businesses, we did have financial things we were having to be mindful of even while we had all this debt. We had about $10,000 in savings. And so the first thing I did was I wrote a $9,000 check, and we took a big chunk out of that. So, overnight we went from $63,000 to $56,000.
That was a huge.
Was that hard? Was that hard to take your savings and let it go to debt? Or
yeah.
Yeah, it was real hard because we weren't paying down credit cards. So it wasn't like I was robbing Peter to pay Paul, and I had $9,000 worth of credit card that I could.
Well, and I also think it's the fear of what if something happens and what if I need that, and you kind of go like your natural disposition to play small, start having fear, doubt, like that kind of you. But I do want to back up real quick and just say something that I think that really, before we get into what we did and what we gave up, I really think, and the way that we kind of explain it is there's really three things that we did. Number one, you need to know your debt down to the penny. Like it wasn't,
Absolutely.
We've got 65,000 or, we've got over 60. No, it was $63,801.99. That number, like I have said it so many times, not only in my platform, on my social media, like I've got people who join my business that say that number to me.
Ashleigh mentioned we're top in a multi-level marketing company. And by we, I mean Ashleigh is, and I get to go to all the events with her. But I didn't realize how much we had said it until one day the number one income earner in our company, who probably makes $150,000 more than us every month. I mean, we're talking
substantial, yeah.
Crazy. He walks up to us and I said, man, that must feel good. And he said, not as good as paying off $63,801.99.
Yeah. So you got to know it down to the penny. That's the first thing we did, because you can't defeat it until you define it. And so we had to define what it was. The second thing is Jason really got a plan of everything that we needed. What are all the requirements in our life? And then the third thing is, what are we eliminating? And so we had to get really honest and transparent. And I would 1,000% say that was the hiccup that we didn't do in November of 15. Or between November of 14 and November of 2015, we didn't do that. We knew what we wanted, but we didn't have a defined plan, route, system. We didn't have the filter of really like following the principles of Dave Ramsey. And so those three things, you'd be shocked, making a world of difference, and you got to go find your debt down to the penny. That absolutely matters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Have that real plan in front of you too. So tell me, I think it's really hard for people to accept the reality of like not getting lunch out every afternoon. Tell me about some of the day-to-day things you guys started cutting.
Oh gosh. So sushi. One of the things
I've seen lots of sushi pictures on your Instagram.
As a matter of fact, before she says this, sushi became such a big motivator in this time that when we were debt free, I put on Ashleigh's wall. She has one picture that says how much money she wants to make every month, and then she has another picture next to it that says "Do it for the sushi."
And it's a giant bowl. And so, I guess we had gotten in so many arguments, at this point we were, doing okay in, my multi-level marketing business. We're making a couple $1,000s a month, but, Jason would, why are you spending $100 a month on sushi? Why is there $50, on the credit card for sushi? Why is there $200? And I am like, bro, get up off my back about it. Like I love sushi. And so that was really hard. And we found ways to just through, metrics in our business where, the first chunk of certain bonuses would go to the pot, they'd go to debt free. And then the next chunk of bonuses I could put in a sushi fund. So as we started paying off debt, we found ways to keep it interesting. But I will say it really helped that we were both together. So in the moments where I was weak, Jason was able to remind me of the goal. And in the moments he was frustrated, I was able to remind him. Being on the same page with your spouse matters, but I did not go into Target at all for 8 months because it took 6 months to go debt free. I went one time. I was in Chicago visiting a friend, but I left my purse. I left my purse in the car. She had to go buy a birthday present, and I was like, "Thank goodness," because I walked in and she went and looked at toys. I was like, "Oh, my daughter would love this," and I picked it up out of habit. And carried it to the register. And I was like, oh my gosh, thank God my purse is in the car, because I forgot we were in the middle of our debt-free journey. But I didn't even trust me going to Target and buying a cake pop from Starbucks.
Right. Yes. Wow.
We gave that up.
But sacrifice in the process is a really interesting, there's a paradox here, because Ashleigh just mentioned I'm in Chicago. By the way, at the time we were living just north of West Palm Beach, Florida. So Ashleigh says, I'm in Chicago, but I can't take my purse into Target. And so obviously at some point there was a major exchange of finances that got her to Chicago, which wasn't playing towards our debt-free journey. And one of the things that we really learned early on, we knew the potential of some of the stuff that we were already doing financially. But if we can get into a debt-free journey and sacrifice, while simultaneously driving up our income through the roof, then we can do this really fast.
So what income, we gave up the things like the sushi, the Target, we gave up our annual passes to Disney World. That was really huge for our family. We really weren't doing a lot, but the dinners, getting pizzas delivered, just those little things. We weren't big spenders. Jason's pretty expensive, but we,
I don't buy a lot, but the stuff I get is
we're not big spenders, but what people don't understand is it's the $50 at Target. Yeah. It's the $20 through McDonald's. It's those little things that add up that at the end of your week, you're like, oh my gosh, I just spent an extra $275 that I don't even know what happened. Right. Mm-hmm. And so we gave up a lot of those things. And again, we're going to let go of the good for the great. And it was really focusing on what is our life going to look like once we are debt free. This will come to a close. The journey will come to an end. But we made sure we didn't stop the income producing activities that our business needed, because as we started, being responsible with our money, guess what? Our finances, our income, money started coming to us from all sorts of crazy places because we could handle it and we knew what to do with it. Jason had a plan of where all of our money would go, especially as it started increasing during the season. So it was really a really cool season to be in. It was really hard, for those full 6 months, giving up those things that we really like, we think we can't live without. But what you don't realize is it's so much better being able to take 10 of my girlfriends and pay for all of their sushi than just for me to go by myself. It's so much better being able to, send someone on my team, a new, iPod, what are those things? The in-ear iPod.
Oh, the AirPods?
AirPods. For her birthday, I just got to go send her a nice pair of AirPods instead of me going to Target and, buying a quick pair of shoes. So when you don't have money, you want to spend it all the time. Mm-hmm. But when you have money, I find that you really it's not like you want to grip it and paralyze it, but you think twice about your decisions.
You're just not jonesing to spend to spend. It's not a therapy thing
You think
anymore.
about it more.
But I also,
you're intentional.
You get very intentional. One of the other sacrifices was in this process. Anyone listening has heard MLM and multi-level marketing multiple times. And one of the things that we're really careful about in our particular business is we're very careful not to sell people the dream. Mm-hmm. Because the reality is the dream doesn't make you money. The hustle does. And in this time frame, Ashleigh's income in multi-level marketing was really going up exponentially over this 6-month period. But I had started several businesses that were making money that I absolutely hated doing. Yeah. And the reality was, on paper, even the financials would have worked out. I could have backed out of all of those things and just lived the dream. But the reality is that extra month or two that it would have taken to pay off our debt wasn't worth it. So I continued to do a lot of stuff I hated doing. And I hope it's not too crude, but I just always used to say, right now, I have to eat crap. Yeah. I got to eat crap right now and do what I have to do. Yeah. And so I went out, I was videoing weddings, which, is the most miserable job ever, especially Florida, because it's just miserable and hot and everyone wants to get married on the beach for some godforsaken reason. It's great when it's once in your life, but when it's every weekend of the month, it's really rough. Mm-hmm. And so, we were doing that. I was working with different contracts for different media odds and ends. So just doing a lot of stuff you didn't want to do.
It wasn't even necessarily the physical things that we were sacrificing, but we were sacrificing our comfort zones, as well. Just we're going to do whatever it takes to accomplish this mission because it's our family's mission right now. And we're going to see that through whatever the cost is, however we have to sacrifice, whatever we need to give up. Like I said, Jason was doing a ton of jobs that he didn't want to do. But we had the mission in mind and we just remembered that and we kept that in the forefront of our family too. Mm-hmm.
I love that, especially in this 2019 immediate gratification kind of world. What would be your advice to kind of get out of that mindset, the immediate gratification, and prepare someone listening for the long game?
Actually, what you just said is what I would say is I talk to people a lot of times when it comes to weight loss, when it comes to going debt free, because we kind of work with people on both ends of that spectrum in our day to day. You have to get the long view is what I say a lot. If you can get the long view, you will be able to do it. I think of what the Lord said to the prophet Habakkuk. He said, write the vision, make it plain so the people can run with it. Write the vision, make it plain so the people can run with it. I'm telling you, if you can get a vision of the future that you can quickly and simply articulate, which you can tell from talking with us was extra work to get it down to a pithy statement. Boy, I'll tell you what, because we can carry on, especially me. But if you can do that, then you can put your feet down to the ground. You can run, not slow down, not look to the left, not look to the right, move straight ahead and conquer that goal.
Yeah, I think so many people, they just lose sight, I think for us, we did so much to keep it in front of us. First off, me and Jason were on the same page. If you want the long-term view to be able to cross the finish line, have those boundaries around yourself. Tell yourself what you're not going to do. How good is it going to feel when you do go debt free? What's the first thing you're going to do to celebrate? What are the reminders you're going to put on your phone that, that you can handle money and that money flows to you freely? And, what are those affirmations you're saying to yourself? We had Jason drew this, ugly long poster of like a tracker, but we would fill this tracker in and it was hanging in our living room.
What was that drawn on? It was on
some IKEA kid
rolling
roll.
paper.
Yeah, some rolling paper that you can do
almost like an old fax machine roll. And I just rolled it.
He rolled it out. It was
massive
tracker. We hung it, once we finished, we hung it above our couch in our living room. And, I know that sounds really silly, but a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to ruin my home decor. Well, what do you want most? Like, I'll have a sign all over my house that says I'm going debt free. And, the bug guy can come in and see it. My friends and family can come in and see it. And I care more about my future than what I have right now. And so putting those practical things in front of you, if you've got to, we had signs on our fridge. We just had signs all over that reminded us why we're doing what we're doing. It constantly, every single day, brought it to our attention. It was a priority and we focused on it. And you've got to focus on where you're going and not what you're losing. Mm-hmm. Like focus on what you're gaining.
Yes, I love that. I love that you put that in front of yourselves. Okay, so when I think of your 6 months, it did not include holidays. Am I right?
It did. No. Oh, it did.
Oh, yeah.
It did. Okay.
We started at the very end of October and then ended
April 13th, 14th, and 16th.
Yeah, because we kept paying off this one debt, and they kept coming back and going, "You owe 32 cents." I'm like, no, I don't.
And then we owed a penny. So yeah, it took us 6 months, and then over the next 2 months. We put $24,000 in a savings, or $25,000 in a savings account. So for 8 months, we kind of humped it.
We just pulled up our Christmas photos from the other day from that year, and we've got a couple of pictures of the kids with stuff that I'm almost certain was couponed.
I couponed everything from Walgreens.
Everything was couponed, and then but there are no pictures of the two of us because we had nothing, man.
I mean, we gave each other washcloths.
Yeah.
If someone's listening now and is motivated to do this, but are like, oh, I've got Christmas, I've got Thanksgiving, I'll wait till January. Tell me how you guys got through that. Some of the real steps someone could bring into their lives.
So I think for us, our kids at the time were 8 and 4, I don't know, 3 and 7. I don't know how old my kids are now. So, but they were young. And, I think that, little Gator, little Allison, she had no idea what was going on. She was 2 or 3, maybe 20. I don't know. But she was really young. She didn't understand what was going on. And Jocelyn was 1st or 2nd grade. And, us keeping the conversation in front of them, they started to learn, when we go to the store, if we're going grocery shopping, can we go look at the toys? No. Why are we not looking at toys? Because we're going debt free. And so we involved them in the conversation when we started at the end of October, beginning of November. So that really helped. We did have a very small budget that we allotted to be able to help coupon to go towards their toys. But, I would say that, yes, your kids want toys. Yes. But you want to know what your kids want? Your kids want two parents that don't argue and fight. Your kids want two parents that have a happy marriage. Your kids would rather care about their future and the car they're going to drive when they're 16 and their college education and setting them up for success than the newest, fastest gadget that they're just going to throw away in 3 weeks. And they probably care more about the box anyways. I think we gave our kids the best that we could in that season. We did the best. I'm not saying, if you want to give them something, then go and, set a small budget for it, but you choose to sacrifice. And we sacrificed a lot. It was actually our anniversary. My birthday and Christmas is all in December. And then Jason's birthday is in February. So we really kind of sacrificed.
Birthdays, Christmas, Thanksgiving we sacrificed. Valentine's Day.
Yep. There was a lot that we just said, we're going to say no now so we can say yes later. And it didn't feel good. You have a little bit of that mom guilt or that dad guilt or, am I a loser of a parent because of this? I promise you our kids want for nothing. We've got phenomenal kids right now. And hopefully I'll remember their ages one day, but like they want for nothing, and we're able to show up in any and every capacity that we deem necessary for them right now at 10 and 6 because of the sacrifices that we made 2 years ago. And it took us 6 months. Like when we think about the rest of our lives, and
even if it would have taken a year,
we thought it would take a year
and a half, we really thought it was going to be a year for it to be 6 months.
Like your journey is your journey, and that's what's important. But there's, like I said, there's intentional reasons why we paid it off super fast, but like, don't be afraid of it's one Christmas. It's one holiday season. It's 1 year where you don't go all out for Halloween or all out for Thanksgiving or all out for Christmas. It's 1 year you don't make a massive, first of the year extravaganza thing. Like what if it's just 1 or 2 years compared to the rest of your life? Mm-hmm. Wouldn't it be worth it? Like when you look at that bird's eye view, of course, we're like, well, God, yeah, that makes sense. But when we're in the moment, it's so hard. But if you're going to do something, choose something really small, set a budget, and don't break it, just do it. But understand that you do not have to be paralyzed by mom guilt or dad guilt. And we're very type A personalities anyways, very mission-minded creatures naturally. But again, keeping the vision in front of us, even for the 2 months, 6 weeks that we had prior to Christmas, we got excited as much as like the bad negative thoughts came in and the guilt. It was like, no, this is where we're going. And we reminded ourselves of where we're going and why we're doing it. And I promise you it's worth it. You might not trust yourself. Just trust me. I promise you it's worth it.
And I think a great practical step anyone could take today if they want to make the decision, sit down and write on a piece of paper, what would you do for Christmas this year if you could spend $5,000 and it not affect any area of your life?
Yeah.
If you could just freely spend $5,000 and you wake up on December 26th and your bank account is not gasping for air, what would that feel like? What would you do?
And that number might be obnoxious, but don't let it scare you. Like we've never spent, even in debt, we never spent $5,000, but that's a great.
We're going to spend $4,000 this year though. In case you're wondering, that's our number.
Yeah. Wow. It feels great to be able to do that in cash and know that we're at the level that we can do that. But don't be afraid to sit down. And for me, my personality, that kind of seems like a waste of time. Like, well, I don't have $5,000, so why would I ever do that? That's like window shopping. I'm not a big window shopper. I'm going with intent or I'm not going at all, baby. Okay. But like, don't be afraid. Like you are worth putting 15 minutes aside the day that you listen to this to write $5,000 and just dream big. And, you'd be shocked. Like you might keep that note and one day it might come to fruition because you're going to start attracting what it is that you want, but don't be afraid to dream big. I think that's a great idea.
And the worst case scenario is, how to spend $5,000 for Christmas if you ever wander into it. Best case scenario is it gets your attention and you go, my God, one Christmas can be sacrificed. One Thanksgiving can be sacrificed so we can make this dream a reality.
I want to ask you, if someone's listening and they're all in, but they're worried about going home and having this conversation with their spouse, what would be your advice to opening that conversation up? Because it's not an easy conversation to have, especially when you are married to someone who's spending a lot.
So for the first, until we moved to Florida in 2015, for the first, what would that be? 7, 8 years of our marriage, somewhere in there. I'll figure out numbers eventually. Somewhere in there, I did the finances, and I'm just going to go ahead and let everybody know right now, I have no business doing the finances. Okay. But I did, and we were drowned. We were drowning in credit card debt, but Jason had no idea. And he didn't look at the bank statements. He just trusted. And we paid our bills on time. We weren't in default with anything, but, we were living on a lot more debt than we anticipated. And it wasn't until we moved to Florida that I was like, I don't think I have any business doing this, because we're not getting ahead. And we kind of realized that our roles kind of reversed a little bit. He went
As a matter of fact, to take over the finances took quite a while because we had to decipher all of the budgets from the notes app on Ashleigh's phone.
Yeah, I am not organized. I fly by the seat of my pants. I'm very chaotic. And so what we realized is, where he was making the money, predominantly the breadwinner, and I was controlling the finances, the moment we kind of let those roles reverse and I started becoming the breadwinner and he started doing the finances, it was like things started flourishing. And so him seeing the money, and, I think a lot of times in those situations, if you have to have a conversation with your spouse, it's probably because they're very ignorant to what's really going on. And I don't mean that as they're stupid. I just meant they're probably in the dark about things.
Yeah, I know that when I did not have my hands on the finances, whenever there were things that I wanted to do,
he couldn't understand.
I'm going, we don't take vacations. We don't go anywhere. And I can't get $300 for this thing I want to do. Where's it going? And so.
But because he didn't see it, he didn't see how we'd spend $800 on groceries in a week, literally buying all the steaks, all the fresh food. But then we'd be going out to dinner 3 nights a week as well. Like we were very using very poor choices with our money. And it was just, I didn't know how to bring it up, or it just became an argument. So it's better like, hey, just put it on credit card. You want $300, go put it on. So him stepping in and seeing it and being present. And I just had this coaching talk with someone that's in our team in my business. And she's like, well, I want to go debt free, but my spouse doesn't. And I was like, cool, let him pay the bills for a month. And she, not even 2 months later, wrote me back and said, he's totally on board going debt free. I said, what happened? She goes, I let him pay the bills for the month, just like you said. Yeah. And he realized how bad it was. So that really brought light to some darkness we had. What would you add to that?
I will say this, though, because some people probably just picked up on this. And I know that you have male and female listeners, for the first 8 years of our marriage, well, probably for the first 10 years of our marriage. I was the primary breadwinner. For the majority of that, I was the only breadwinner. And Ashleigh was dealing with the finances. And then we really did, not super intentionally with the income, but with the budgeting and taking care of everything on paper, we did make a role reversal where Ashleigh makes the predominant amount of money. And I want to be very clear. We're not talking about a 52-48 split here. We're talking about like a 98-2 split here. Ashleigh makes the majority of the money. The money I bring in, she basically lets me play with. That's how big the difference is. But for a lot of men out there, I know you may be listening and you go, well, I just don't know if I could do that. But I had to ask myself a question at some point. And this is where you have to get real objective. Would you rather have a lot of money or be the man? And I just decided I already don't play football or baseball or hockey. So, I don't put one minute on the belt and I can still make a bunch of money. Hey, come on now. Let's do that one. So, sometimes you just have to objectively step back and go, what are the gift sets in the house? And the reality is, if I didn't have my hands on the money that comes in and Ashleigh wasn't bringing the money in, we'd still be living on $60,000 a year. But we have nearly, not exactly, but we've nearly 10x that income over the last several years because we recognize the gift sets and what may. And so it's been epic.
Tell me a little bit about where you are now, the building wealth part of this journey, because this is the part that allows people to have a $5,000 Christmas. So tell me about this.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about the reality of building wealth, because here's where we are.
Well, real quick, before he gets all technical, I am just going to note for the record, I just bought my first pair of red bottom shoes, and I'm so excited.
I think I saw those. Did you post those? Do they have dollar bills on the side?
Yep, I posted them on. Oh no, those were not red bottoms.
Oh,
Those are the ones she bought the day after the red bottoms.
Yeah, those were my $74 money shoes from Macy's.
Okay.
I felt more humbled to post those, but I'm
even though they were
designer.
incredibly ostentatious.
Yeah,
so.
I'm not a designer buff, but I wanted a pair of red bottoms. I haven't shared them yet. I shared them in my Instagram stories once, but I'll shoot you a picture of them. And so that was really cool to be able to spend over $900 on a pair of shoes, which sounds really obnoxious, but I really like them, and I like the person that I'm going to be when I wear them.
Wow.
I'm going to be a bad mamma jamma. So I'm going to plug that before he goes all technical on you.
Yeah.
Well, because that's what he's really wanted.
Actually,
it is amazing. I just want everyone to think about where we started 5 years ago, 5 years before. Did I do the math correctly?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
5 years before where you were in your car on Thanksgiving. I think that's amazing.
Oh, yeah. No savings account. No nothing. Like, we didn't have a pot to pee in. We didn't have nothing.
I mean, at that time, we were, because money was tightening up at an incredible rate 5 years ago, where we were selling things. I play the electric bass. I sold a bass that I still wish I wouldn't have sold, because they don't make them anymore and nobody's selling them. Everybody hanging on to them now. And so it was tough back then. But no, I'll just say that we are in the beginning stages of building wealth, and which means that we are dealing with more challenges than we are successes right now, because that's what being at the beginning always means. Because whenever you start something, you are at your furthest point from mastering it. And so for us, the biggest challenge that we run into right now, because we have enough money in savings that a catastrophe could hit and we can handle it. We have no debt. We owe no one anything. And so everything that comes in, we have a choice. Do we want to do something with this now, or do we want to invest it and build our net worth? And we went really hard for 8 months, really hard, because we talk about the $63,000. We haven't even mentioned the $25,000 that we put in the bank. So it was $87,000 that we actually dealt with over an 8-month period. And I had lost a ton of weight. And when we did that $25,000, people always say, "Why'd you gain your weight back?" I said, "Because I saved $25,000. And they said, how did that make you gain weight? I said, "Because I don't even think we made $25,000. I stared at spreadsheets and willed it into existence through my own personal stress, And but now the challenge that we have is, do we say yes to now, or do we say yes to later? And to be frank, for the last year, we've said a lot of yes to now.
Yeah.
AKA red bottom shoes, AKA the $2,000 in plane tickets I got to buy when we get off the phone, AKA the camera that I'm going to buy whether Ashleigh wants me to or not. The things that are going on.
Yeah.
She just gave me a look because she didn't know about the camera. The camera's coming.
It's a good place to reveal it.
Yeah, right.
Say it in front of people so you can alleviate some of the reaction. And so we're saying yes, but what we also are doing is making a transition. Ashleigh said earlier when we were budgeting back in the day that the issue was the $10, $20, $30 expenses that were just eating our lunch. And so Ashleigh a few weeks ago said, well, if we would just cut out all these $10, $20, $30 expenses. I said, Ashleigh, we don't have $10, $20, $30 expenses. We have $100, $200, and $300 expenses. And $300 enough times just adds up. And I do it, she does it, we're living life. But to say no, it's the same principle. Can you look forward and go, it will be worth it soon? So I'll give you the hypothetical answer to how to build wealth. And because it would have been hypothetical before we went debt free, but it turned out I was right on the back end. So here's the hypothetical. We are looking to invest massive amounts of money so we can retire early. The really interesting thing is the more money you invest, the faster you never have to work again. Mm-hmm. The more money you invest, the faster you never have to work again. It's real simple. It's a real simple equation. And so the same way that we went debt-free by not just making those minimum payments, not just dealing with it as it came, but we got intense and we threw everything at the debt, we'll be a little more loose and enjoy life a little more, but we are going to be pretty intense throwing everything that we can at our net worth.
And you have a video that I loved on YouTube, and I'll put it in the show notes about how to be a millionaire. So the last question I want to ask you, because this is a podcast about finding more joy in the everyday, the good, the bad, the in-between of life, what is your number one tip to do that?
My number one tip to find joy always comes back and is always anchored in experiencing grace for life through Jesus Christ. I will be honest with you. Through everything that's gone on, and anytime that I have to answer the question, because people always come up with this great faith-filled question, well, what if you lose everything? Just don't you like having positive, encouraging people around you? So what do you do if you lose everything? I say the same thing I did when I had nothing, the same thing I did when I had everything will be the same thing I do when I lose it all. I'm going to serve Jesus Christ to the best of my ability, and I'm going to experience grace for life through him.
No, I 100% agree. I think that, money comes, money goes. You're going to have people that tell you money's good. You're going to have people tell you money's bad. The reality is we have more options than we've ever had. We have bigger dreams, bigger hopes. We have the ability to give in a capacity we've never been able to give before. And we have the ability to have fun and enjoy ourselves. But if all that was taken away, the joy that we still had 5 years ago, not knowing how things were going to shake out, but having the confidence that no matter what, like God's faithfulness still reigns true in our life. Like that has never dissipated through this entire circumstance. We've grown a lot, we've matured a lot, we've learned a lot about money, but at the end of the day, life is so much bigger than money, but you can do so much life with it.
That's great. Thank you guys so much for coming on the podcast. I am so excited to share this with my listeners.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Danielle. This has been fun.
I had such a great time talking to Jason and Ashleigh. I just love how down to earth and honest they were throughout the entire conversation, especially because talking about money can be awkward. I'm linking all of their information in the show notes. Remember, if you like this episode, please share it, and it always helps me and continues my mission with Happiness in Progress when you rate it. I want to thank you for being here on Happiness in Progress.